Kendrick Lamar's major label debut Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, the making story is finally in. And it's every bit as good we all hoped it would be, and then some. The artist formerly known as K.A.A. has done something that didn't seem possible in this day and age. He's made an album without any artistic or commercial concessions. An album that speaks for a generation. An album that's worthy of being called a classic. And it's not just a collection of masterful records. It's a conceptual album, a short film, as the subtitle puts it. Good Kid, M.A.A.d City follows a day in the life of a teenage Kendrick, riding around the streets of Compton as he hooks up with a girl, does a house lick, and goes through numerous other misadventures. The album will surely catapult Kendrick into the upper echelons of rap, where his debut will have to be compared to the likes of Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, and Nas. If you think those comparisons are lofty, consider the fact that the people involved in the making of this album compared Kendrick to everyone from Bob Dylan to John Coltrane. No, seriously. When an album this significant drops, it's only right that Complex document its creation. So grab a 40, ignore your voicemails, and borrow your mother's van if you have to. Because we're going to take a ride down the wicked streets of Compton with King Kendrick Lamar. This is the story of Angels on Angel Dust. The story of the dysfunctional bastards of the Ronald Reagan era. This is the story of a good kid in a mad city. Kendrick Lamar said, "This is a dark movie album. I wanted to tap into that space where I was at in my teenage years." Everybody knows Kendrick Lamar, but he had to come from a certain place, a certain time, and certain experiences. I've been planning this for years. Everything was premeditated. I already knew what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to convey. I had that album cover for years. I knew I was going to use it and that it was the best description of what I was talking about in the album. It's a long time coming. Everything we dwelled on is coming to light. To have an album that I have total creative control over is one of the best feelings in the world. I probably wouldn't have been able to make a dark album if I didn't have creative control. That's why once some people get into a situation, they change their style. But I have creative control. Mixed by Ali goes, the album takes place in '04. So these skits are reminders of what's going on in the story. It's as if you were to go back in time and put a microphone in the middle of Kendrick and his people before they were going to do the house lick or going visit his people or meeting up with girls. Kendrick Lamar goes, the skits bring the storyline together. Those skits are actually my real mother and father. Those are people that I was raised by. So I decided to put them in the skits as themselves. And those are my real homeboys being themselves. It ties the storyline in perfect. My parents love the album. They love that I got the chance to tell that story I wanted to tell in a positive light. There are twists and paybacks. The story is about one day in the life of me and my homeboys. I really didn't want to make it song by song, each piece. I want to trigger certain points where you make a connection, almost like a Pulp Fiction feel. You have to listen to it more times to live with it and breathe with it. Punch goes, I'm the president of Top Dog Entertainment. Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, the founder and CEO of TDE. That's my blood relative. My cousin. I've worked there since about 2004. I fill in the gaps. I write raps too. I was on some of the earlier records, so I understand the art. I'm the medium for the art and the business of the company. This project was in the works Kendrick's whole life. This is his life story. He had the concept before all of his mixtapes. This is the prequel to everything. He had the title for this album even before Kendrick Lamar EP had dropped. He was writing the concept the whole time. He actually wrote a project called Good Kid, M.A.A.d City before the EP came out. The plan was for the 8-song EP to drop as a warm-up for the Good Kid, M.A.A.d City he did already. In the process, he had more songs and the buzz started growing. So we dropped the EP. Overly Dedicated was supposed to be remixes, but it turned into a whole project. Songs like Average Joe off O.D. was one of the original concepts for Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. Even Keisha's song was initially for Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, but it was from a different point of view. The album really came together on the road because he has been on touring strong for about 2 years straight. So he'll be on an airplane writing a song, get back home and lay the record, then have to fly out to do something else. It's just a testament to how focused and how strong-minded he is. I don't know if a lot of artists could record that album while touring. That picture for the album cover, he found that 2 years ago and said, "This is what I'm going to use for my album cover." I really plotted out everything. We had a vision for everything and followed that vision. It's not just random songs. This is a real story, a real life. This album is giving you insight to who he was before Section 80, before OD, before EP. We had it all mapped out. Mixed by A.K.A. said goes, Dave Free from TDE worked at the high school I was attending. Colonial High School. He was always around passing out J-Rock CDs. At that time, I was working with Tyga because we grew up together. Me and Dave connected early, and we talked about J-Rock and TDE. I was interested in what they had going on, so he told me to come by the studio one time, and I never left. It's been a family bond since then. Like a foster child came and never left. I started doing ringtones in high school. I had this program to record ringtones and put them on people's phones. People wanted to put their own voice on the ringtone, so I started recording their voice to put on their phone. Next thing you know, I'm recording full songs after school. I love it. I can take somebody's voice, do whatever I want with it. Change it up, compress it, add different effects to it, do whatever I want to make it sound good. I studied engineering. I studied Pro Tools. Logic, went hands-on and tried to be the best with that. I think I was 17 when I first met Kendrick. I was with Punch. He did all the recording at TDE. Punch called me and said, "I can't come in, but K.A.A. needs to record. Can you go?" I was nervous as hell because I was fresh. I didn't know nothing about nothing. But I was like, okay, I'll do it. I remember fucking up the whole time, and Kendrick was so mad that he cut the session. But it was a good experience. I learned what not to do in a session, which is to be slow and fuck shit up. Kendrick Lamar said, "I was in Atlanta when the business gave me the beat. Immediately I got a vibe where I wanted to talk about a specific girl back when I was growing up, a specific story that leads down the line into the album. I got the track and I started writing, and I went back home and laid it down. These songs, they come naturally for me to write off the experiences I grew up with and the things I've been around. It was just what we were going through. It's easy for me to write real stories rather than making up a crazy story. The business goes, TDE is family. We've been messing with them since like 2007. We actually met Kendrick for the first time when we were working on a song called West Side for J-Rock's album, and did the first Black Hippie song ever. At that time, nobody even knew what Black Hippie was. We've been rocking with them for years. They were able to watch us rise to the top. So it's been dope to be able to build with people who are really our friends. We started working with Kendrick, we were working on some new sounds. When we met with him, we had done a few songs already, but he was looking for something different. We had picked up a couple tracks that we did, and when we started using Native Instruments machine with the mic, there was Live Instruments live bass. We had some weird sounds I was making with my mouth. He just fell in love with the track. He was like, man, this is it. This is what I need. This is the anthem that I feel, even though it was moody. It's him. It's Kendrick. It's his sound, his type of an anthem. It kind of brings you back to that Section 80 feel. We just got in there and banged it out and shot the track to Ali to mix it. Kendrick Lamar said, Lady Gaga was going to be on the song. We had a date, but we had to meet the deadline for the pre-order date. That's just the business side coming through and messing things up. But you know it's God's plan. I'm not really too tight about it because I know we have something special. Soundwave goes, me and Kendrick found this crazy record from this foreign group and we didn't know where to go with it. So we looped that, I took it to my spot and did the drums. I added everything I needed. The extra guitars, strings, all that. That inspired Kendrick to bring it to another level. Kendrick is hands-on with beats. He will find something he likes and call me right up. Yo, let's go check this out. Like that's how Spiteful Chant came about. That's how we much work all the time. We just sit vibe and listen to beats over and over. Mixed by Ali goes, we were in Chicago with Lady Gaga in the studio when we played the song for her. She wanted to hop on it, but I think she did it somewhere in Europe and sent us the files. They were going back and forth on the song and bouncing around different concepts about what they could do with the record. We actually had a record done, but there were timing issues with the album, and it didn't make the cutoff date. Kendrick's vibe in the studio is funny. He will go from sitting in the corner super serious writing a song with his eyes closed to finding something funny on YouTube to watch. He is a random dude, but that's what makes him, him. You might catch him walking in circles writing, or you might catch him in the booth by himself with the lights off writing. He writes everything in his head. He writes in his phone sometimes. He just catches the vibe wherever he's at. Kendrick Lamar said, that's really the start of the art of peer pressure. It flows into the album. It's about me and my homeboys really getting in the back seat and starting our day. Sometimes we'll rap. It takes away from everything else. That's one of the feelings that the record produces. Hit Boy goes, I met Kendrick in New York a couple years ago. He had just started getting a buzz. We chopped it up a little bit, but we just kept building from there. Then he ended up signing to Interscope, and I have an in with some people over there. So they always wanted me to work with him. We had this other record down that we did last year. We went out to Vegas and vibed, and I just thought he was going to be using that joint. He was like he couldn't get the hook right in his mind, so that song got deaded. Later on, I was just at the crib, I work out of my crib, and Kendrick came through. As soon as that beat came on, he was like, "That's the one. This is going on my album." He went out on the road and ended up recording out there. Kendrick changed the beat I gave him by looping this one part from the beginning that wasn't that way when I first gave him the beat. So he's hearing what he wanted to hear. He definitely had a hand in making it how he wanted it to sound. As soon as he finished it, he hit me like, "Yo, we got one. This shit is crazy. It's a turned-up joint with energy." That's what I'm getting known for with records like Homies in Paris, Click and Cold. Having that energy and that youthfulness to my sound. My goal is always to bring the super producer era back. I feel like I'm one of the few people who really cares about everything from my style to how I dress to my social networking. The kids really look up to what I'm doing and I got to hold up to that. Every so often, we get these guys who push the boundaries and bring that authentic shit. Kendrick is one of those guys. He's not just West Coast, he means a lot to hip-hop in general. He's showing the kids that you can rap about what you want to rap about and that you can rap about real subjects. Punch Goes, that's my favorite record. That song is real reckless. That's a young man's song. I feel cool when I listen to that song. I got a swagger when I listen to it. There's times when you just want to be reckless. That's just how you feel in a particular mind frame. Unless you listen to the album a few times, you won't get it. We've always been big on albums with skits like The Chronic. Those skits helped cement those classic records, and that's something we always wanted to do. Kendrick Lamar said, "That's probably one of the first records I recorded for this album. Immediately when I heard the beat, I just want to take people on that ride, on that journey. It's about being a teenager from LA, and being influenced by your peers and who you're hanging out with. I overcame peer pressure in my life because I had a father in my life. That's a big part of my life. I had respect for him. He wasn't right there. He couldn't be there all the time. And he wasn't no perfect person. But at the same time, he had much love for me. He made sure I had a better life. He made sure I found that life through music." Punch Goes, "Me and Kendrick are very similar. I come from Nickerson Garden Projects, but I was never gangbanging. But it was all around me. My story is the same as his story, a good kid in a mad city. Both of us had both of our parents. Both of us had our strong fathers in our lives, as opposed to everyone we hung out with growing up. So it's a lot of parallels. I'm just 5 years older than him. He's actually my little brother's age. I see exactly what he's talking about because I've been there, so I know exactly where he's trying to go. It's rare we have creative differences because he knows I see his vision. If you looking at the album as a movie, that song is like the action scene, the story of him and his boys after the Backseat Freestyle and what they're about to do. His lyrics are so detailed, they paint such a picture. The lyrics tell you every single step. I'll let Kendrick answer if the song is actually based on his experiences. Kendrick Lamar said, "That's about temptation. After the ride of going on The Art of Peer Pressure. When you listen to that, and that was the mind state of thinking everything is about $1. That's where we were at the time. Everything was about money. We didn't care about nothing else, truthfully. I'm very hands-on with producers, and that's why my projects come out so cohesive. I don't just go out there and just find a bunch of instrumentals and rap over them. I have a specific sound in my head I want to convey. I really sit down with producers. I come up with ideas and give them ideas." J-Rock goes, "Honestly, he was like already done with the album before I got on it. When I heard it, that was one of my favorite records. Every time he played it, I'm like, run it back." He was keeping the album real personal. He didn't want that many features. Not even from us. When bro get in his zone, he gets in his zone. He's so into his craft, he don't do it intentionally. He just so happened to hit me like, "I want you to do a verse for Money Trees." I was honored, so I took my time with it. Wrote it down and finished it up. When he heard it, he was like, "Man, you took it to the next level." Punch Goes, "We were going to use Money Trees as a remix with J-Rock on it. But J-Rock's verse was so crazy and fit the story so well, we had to use that as the original." J-Rock goes, "I've always known Kendrick from being around the city. I'm from Watts, he's from Compton. He went to Centennial High School. A lot of my homeboys and family members went there too. I used to ditch school to go up there to hang out, and I used to see him around. He was rapping like a madman. It's ironic we ended up at the same label. We've been together since day one grinding. It's good to see the world finally recognizing who we are and respecting our music. I'm like the big brother of TDE. Everybody knows about my past situation with Warner Brothers Records. Sometimes in business you live and you learn. My team was not happy with the situation and how things were running, but I thank Warner Brothers for giving me the opportunity. My team went in and got me up off of Warner Brothers. But all in all, whatever I was doing, you always seen Kendrick, Schoolboy Q, and Ab Soul with me. That's how it is, we family, we always looking out for each other. Punch goes, when J-Rock was going through his whole situation with Warner, that was Kendrick going through college. He was experiencing everything J-Rock was experiencing. We had a different mindset going into the Warner situation. We thought J-Rock was signed, so this is it. We good now, but that wasn't the case. Once we got J-Rock released, our whole goal was to never depend on anybody ever again. We were going to do everything ourselves going into Kendrick's career. Kendrick Lamar said, "If you listen to Poetic Justice, it's a song about a chick saying these legs are poems. On the back end of that is really the Sherane joint, so it's a dedication song for Sherane. And that's going into Good Kid and M.A.A.d City, which completes the story." Me and Drake had been working for a while off the fact that I was on his tour and I was on Take Care. We were talking about what joints we wanted to do. When Scoop shot me the track, I immediately came up with the concept of doing that vibe, and the first person I had in mind was Drake. Drake killed it and it came out crazy. I think that's going to sit for a while. Scoop DeVille goes, "I linked with TDE family almost 5 years ago. We all knew of each other from working with Game in his studio sessions and coming up around the same time. TDE always showed me a lot of love, and I'm riding with the whole squad. If there's anybody hustling in a new era of hip-hop on the West, it's TDE. A while back, I got into the studio with Kendrick in New York. After the recipe dropped, it was top priority to get in and make some more pieces. We played a lot of joints that night. That sample flip was a special piece that I was saving for the right artist. I've been a fan of what Kendrick has been bringing to the table, and it seemed like the right fit, and everybody else liked it too. The sample of Janet Jackson's Anytime, Anyplace is so crazy, so the fact that it was even cleared amazes me." Punch goes, "We started recording that a while before he actually laid the vocals. That was probably one of the more difficult records because we knew people would love that record and it could possibly be a smash. So it took a while before we could get the right approach. We were in New York and he recorded the first verse and the hook. When we got back to LA, he finished it. Then he rearranged it. Then we put Drake on it. It took months to get that song finished. We're definitely not using Drake just because he's Drake. The song sounds like Drake. It sounds like his lane. We're definitely not forcing him on at all. That's how Kendrick works. If it fits the song, then it's whatever. But just because you're a superstar doesn't mean you're right for this record. So it was a conscious decision to get Drake for that song." Kendrick Lamar said, "That represents the space I was in, knowing that you're doing wrong things. But at the same time, you're a good kid at heart. I knew what I was doing and what I was getting myself into and the people I'm hanging with. Getting in the studio with Pharrell was insane. We did about 5 records together. He bangs out beats so quick it's amazing. So we was just cutting records. When he played that beat, I knew instantly that was the one I wanted for the title track, just because of how dramatic it sounds." Pharrell Williams said, "Kendrick is the Black Bob Dylan. He's the most phenomenal MC, and his album will completely change the direction of hip-hop. It's the most poetic, honest shit. He's giving us rap songs full of hope. On Good Kid, he talks about how he didn't let the craziness going on around him change him. He's speaking of a Compton that's very different from the one Dre and Snoop blessed us with. He's giving us a new perspective on a world most people don't even know about. His approach to music proves how much of a rebel he is for his art. This guy doesn't care what's going on with radio. He approached his album the same way Adele and Frank Ocean did. Those kinds of artists only care about making music that's true to who they are. I could not be more honored to be a part of his album. It's the return of the Backpackers for a whole new audience." Mixed by Ali goes, "That's a real powerful record. It's going to go over a lot of people's heads. That record tells the story about the kid from the inner city who doesn't really get too much attention. He's overlooked and disrespected by the community. The police be disrespectful in the city. They don't give a fuck about you. They do whatever they gotta do to get their paycheck or their raises. That shit's the worst." He shows the part of the city from the inner city that made it out. That didn't have to gangbang, but they went through the bullshit but didn't get caught up in robbing and killing. And there's another kid. How being a good kid is being stuck inside of the box, and how he has no choice but to ride along on the drive-by shooting. Have no choice but to go into the houses and rob, because this is what he's around. This is his friends and family doing this. He's just going with his people. Kendrick Lamar said, "M.A.A.d City is the turn-up. That's the side of Compton that everybody knows. The aggressive side. The first half of the song is like the interlude half of it. The actual song is with m.A.A.d on it. That's really the turn-up. In that, I state the actual title, M.A.A.d City. M.A.A.d City has 2 meanings, my angel on angel dust and my angry adolescence divided. If you listen to the album, you'll find out the reason why I don't smoke weed. because once upon a time you'd find stuff laced with cocaine and angel dust. That caused a reaction, and I put that inside the song. That really happened to me. That's the reason for the title. M.A.A.d gave us the stamp by getting on that track. He recognized that he's actually been in that world too. M.A.A.d is a great influence on me, with him being from Compton and speaking on something that was real. M.A.A.d influenced me by showing me that I don't have to talk about a lifestyle that's not mine to win. He talks about his lifestyle growing up. That stuck, and people still relate to that. He gave me inspiration to speak on something that was real to me. M.A.A.d goes, Kendrick wanted me to get on the song. In this day and age, you appreciate it, but you can never tell. Sometimes songs fly, sometimes they don't. But he said that he wanted me to come to the studio. We got to the studio. He played me the track. We kicked around the concept and what he wanted. I tossed around some ideas, tossed around a few verses, and vibed out to his verses, and bingo. The song just connected. Soundwave goes, originally that song had a B.B. King record sampled on it. At the last minute we find out we couldn't use it because we couldn't clear the sample. But we needed this record on the project. We couldn't lose it. So I make some phone calls and find this incredible player named Mary Keating, and she just took it to another level. At first the record was good, but after she did what she did with it, we can't even stand to listen to the original version now. M.A.A.d is one of Kendrick's old childhood idols. He always looked up to him for his work in Menace to Society and his music. Kendrick was just pitching ideas like, what if I got M.A.A.d on there? We all looked at each other. Like, what do you mean, what if? You have to get him on there! White came to the studio. He sat there and wrote his verse exactly like how we wanted it to sound. Mixed by Ali goes, a friend of mine was family to M.A.A.d, and all I did was reach out. M.A.A.d heard Kendrick was a fan, so he came by the studio that day and knocked it out. Quick, too. I'm a young dude myself, so I've never really heard too much music from him, but when I heard the song, it was perfect. Punch goes, the good kid is him, and the Mad City is actually the Mad City. That's why those songs have to go back to back. We have M.A.A.d on there to give it that authentic Compton sound. Even when we played it in New York, people went crazy when they heard his voice. I didn't know he translated to the East like that. It was shocking to hear the response he got in there. Kendrick Lamar said, that's another record going back to the influence of the people around me and the household I grew up in. Each track flows into skits that really breaks down the understanding, so that song goes into another skit. I wanted to do something that felt good, but had a meaning behind it at the same time. Really bringing that mainstream world to us, rather than a rapper with content along to the nation. I wanted to do something that's universal to everybody but still true to myself. What better way to make something universal than to speak about drinking? I'm coming from a household where you had to make a decision. You were either a casual drinker or you were a drunk. That's what that record is really about. Me experiencing that as a kid and making my own decisions. Mixed by Ali goes, with records like that, I actually get to see the music when I look at it. And when I heard the second verse and heard his conscience come in, I knew we had to do something to switch it up right there. So we changed that. Some vocal animations and stuff like that. That record came about when T- sent us the beat. This was a minute ago. Kendrick was playing it and he didn't even know what to do to it. It was so crazy. So a couple weeks later he just came with this song and it was a hit. That song was actually fun to mix. Me and Dr. Dre mixed that one. The beat is real open, so you can kinda do whatever you want to it, as far as messing with the vocals. So I was just playing with some delays, some reverbs, tweak it out, make it sound real eerie. Working with Dre is amazing, man. Me being the age I am, I grew up listening to this man's music. Dre is a genius. He's a perfectionist. And watching him work, I learned a lot. I gained so much experience and knowledge, even outside of music, all the stuff he's seen and been through in his life. So I'm blessed to be in that position. He said that in 30 years, his whole career, he has never really mixed with nobody. I was like the first person he's ever mixed with. Knowing that made me feel good. Like, man, this is Dr. Dre. He knows all the frequencies. He knows what pockets to put all the sounds in, and he knows what's missing. When the full album is done, he can just hear and know it's missing some hi-hats here. He can make you get back and ad-lib. There's no one better than Dre. T- goes, I don't really say this much, but that record I feel like has a lot of integrity. People never address alcoholism. A lot of people, when they first hear it, they think it's just about drinking and the positive effects of getting drunk. But this record talks about the negative effects as well, which is really dope because not a lot of people want to touch on all the other things. That's one of my favorite records that I've ever produced. Punch goes, It's a real deceptive record if you're a casual listener. It sounds like we are celebrating having a good time before you actually dive into what he's saying. He wrote it deceptive like that on purpose. If you just a casual listener, go ahead. Have fun. But if you're really a fan of him, you'll get the message behind the record. That also plays a part into his actual background, what he's seen growing up as a kid. If you look at the cover, you see the 40 bottle right next to the baby bottle. It was always around my household and the households of a lot of people I know. The album has the extended version because it plays more into the overall story. So it's maybe another 1.5 to 2 minutes of music. You know when you do an album, certain people might have certain songs exclusive to them? Like if Target has the album, they might have certain songs exclusive to them. So we did a Black Hippie remix to Swimming Pools for one of those things. Sky Hutch said, I had gotten in with TDE through Tay Beats of DigiPlusPhonics and Ab-Soul, who opened his ear to me and let me produce on Control System. Kendrick hit me up searching for particular sounds and whatnot. I was already in my zone at the time, creating tons of beats, so I was just sending him stuff. I was actually going to send this beat to Ab-Soul, but I held off. I sent it to Tay and let him listen to it first. He went crazy and I was just like, I'm going to send it to Kendrick. A couple weeks later, Kendrick hit me up like, yo, I really need that record. I didn't know it was going to be his most personal record. I had one of those Kanye moments where he gave the "This Can't Be Life" beat to Jay-Z. And he was like, I didn't know it was going to be that personal. What, I wasn't expecting something personal. I just heard his voice on there. This whole album collectively is an amazing piece. He really puts his time into every single song with his little ad-libs, anything. He's literally hands-on with that. He's to the T. Kendrick is such a complex individual. You think you know one thing, but nah, it's something else. He changes his mind every second. I was just talking to Beast about this. I was watching the A-Tribe Called Quest documentary, Beats, Rhymes, and Life. And you know how they were talking about how Q-Tip one moment would love the record. They'd be thinking it was a go, but then he'd change his mind. I was like, that's what Kendrick be reminding me of. I swear to God he'll sit here and be like, I love this record. Then next week he'll be like, you know, I was actually thinking I want this old record that you did. Oh, it's something I've been sent him. His mind is constantly on the change. That's how a lot of greats do it, though. Punch goes, Kendrick came to me and said, what do you think about putting these two songs together? Right off. I was just like, yeah, that's genius. Why not? What ties them together is genius. Those two songs are probably the heaviest and deepest songs. Kendrick Lamar goes, the same day my homeboy got shot, I ran into an older lady. I don't want to say she was religious, but she was a spiritual lady who broke down what life is really about to us. I'm dying of thirst represents being in a situation where all this happens throughout the day, but at the end of the day we run into this particular lady and she breaks down the story of God positivity life, being free, and being real with yourself. She was letting us know what's really real, because you have to leave this earth and speak to somebody of a higher power. That song represents being baptized. The actual water, getting dipped in holy water, it represents when my whole spirit changed. When my life starts, my life that you know right now. That's when it starts. The whole album is really its own. I can go back and listen to these stories and know that they come from reality. Like goes, me and Pac Dive was on tour with Mac Miller, and on Thanksgiving we had an off day in South Carolina. It was like 2 in the morning and I started making beats. And this particular one I came across, I was just really in the groove, man. Something was telling me to send it to Kendrick. I wasn't going to send it to his management. I had his email, so I contacted him directly. It was like 3 in the morning by the time I finished the beat. I sent it to him and he hit me right back. Like, yo man, this shit is crazy, I got the lights off. Candles on writing this? Man, this is a gem. Oh, I didn't think nothing of it. I just knew it was a dope beat. If he wasn't getting on it, I was definitely going to use it for myself. Kendrick Lamar said, that's the start of me recognizing everything I was doing throughout that day. It wasn't real. Everybody has their own perception of what a real homie is. Most of the time, a real homie is a street cat, or someone putting in some type of work and doing violence. That's what we thought they was, someone who's about that life. But on that record, it was me getting an understanding of what real is and my pops breaking down on that record. It shows the influence he had on my life. Real is taking care of your family. Real is responsibility. Real is believing in a high power, believing in God. Real is having morals. Real is carrying yourself in a manner where you're not influenced by anybody else. You have your own mind, your own outlook on life. You're not doing what's just the trend or doing what people want you to do. Punch goes, Terrace and Kendrick got a certain chemistry. They have been working together for years. Terrace is basically an honorary member of Top Dog Entertainment. I mean, he's been around from the beginning, even since some of the original cast members, so that's family. That's just like him working with Soundwave. They have their own particular thing. Kendrick Lamar said, "That's the start of my life. That's the start of the positivity that I kept in. That's the exact start. The movie ends after Real. You'll hear the cassette loading. It ends with Real. The new chapter starts with Compton." Punch goes, "Compton is a record I wanted from the jump. I wanted to actually put that out before The Recipe." I just felt like that's such a statement with Dre because it was such a summation of the whole project. Kendrick is such a perfectionist that sometimes I just leave the studio. I'll be gone. I think he got it good the first 20 times. I think he got a lot of that from Dr. Dre, though. Because when Dre first worked with him on Detox, Dre really made an impression on us. Kendrick Lamar goes, "One of the reasons why it's the perfect song is that the history behind that song is incredible. It was the first song I ever recorded with Dre. It was the first time meeting him and actually walking in the studio. That was the beat that was playing. He was testing me out to see if I could, that's really me rapping. Better than here. That was the first song. It was a great experience. I'll never forget that exact moment." Kendrick Lamar said, "That was a street single. That was the warm-up to let people really know what's coming." Scoop DeVille actually came through with that joint, and I got really fired up talking about how much fun I was going to have doing it. I was sold automatically. I laid it down. Dre came through. Laid it down, and that was it. That's the only one I thought could be a radio smash. But I never wanted my debut to become a super big song, because then you have to follow up with that. I don't want my album, I don't want my career to start at that highest point and then decline. I always wanted to climb higher with each step. Everything is set up for a reason. Kendrick Lamar said, "That song is talking about everybody that I seen winning in the city when I was growing." I speak on two particular guys. The first guy is Aaron Aflalo. He played for my high school, Centennial High, and he's in the NBA now. Just knowing that he was going to the league at the time, it was like, damn, he's the one making it out. I was tight about the situation. Like, damn, why is he making it out of this shit? Why are we doing all this stuff and not making it out? It's jealousy. And I spoke on another cat. Another mentor of mine named Jason Taylor, a.k.a. Game. Before I met him, I was still in school and recognizing that he's from Compton and he's making it out. So it's like, damn, those two cats are doing it. What are we doing? We're still stuck doing nothing. And that's being inspired by that. That's why I said, Black Boy Fly. They did something with themselves to get out of poverty and make a better situation with their lives. Punch goes, "I thought that was a real important song for Kendrick and the project, but it didn't fit the narrative of the regular cuts.